This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after the show.
Don't drink the Foster. We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, hi, my name is Peter. Yeah, I want. Here's good.
Yeah.
Adam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on.
He likes it.
It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorce dad, single dad, divorce dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
It's showtime. Ho, ho, ho. That's right. December 21st. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. 4 days or so till Christmas. Give everybody a few minutes to catch up and join in. Wednesday, December 21st. Today, last show of our Getting Through the Holidays series. And a good show it will be. Promise you not to disappoint. We've brought in all aspects of types of issues of getting through the holidays, and let not tonight be another way of talking about things for people who are going through things, and I hope that after we get through with this whole series that it helps the many. So I encourage you to share, please. You may be doing okay, but I guarantee you there are people around you that may not be. Open your ears, take a look around. They're your friends, your family. And that's what we're here for tonight. I got a great show tonight. Tonight on this show, from New York, family law attorney, Miss Debra Whitson from Whitson Family Law Firm. She's going to be on this show. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, not only just divorcing, but about the process, about coping with it, dealing with it, kids involved. All the stuff that put me in this seat where I am today because of things like that. And I know it's going to be a great bit of information. I hope that people, you pay attention to it and use it to your advantage, because I've been there, done that. But for everyone who's healing and getting through all this mess, there's 5 more coming in the door. It's a constant, sad rotation, but it is what it is. And it's the holidays. And the holidays, as I've said this whole time since the beginning of November, the holidays takes a bad situation and amplifies it, because we're all supposed to be doing joyous and fun things. It's just another day, people. I mean, it's great if you can do it, but if you don't have the opportunity to be as festive as some, there's always next year. I've sat home many, I can count, a great handful of times that I had to let the holidays go due to circumstances. I believe in every day being a good day. That's the key. And even bigger key is love is the key. So you got to love yourself, get through it. Have friends to lean on, talk to, let some steam off. And hi, my name is Peter, and you're watching Life of Peter G, the Peter G Show, every Wednesday, like clockwork, God willing, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. on the East Coast. If you're fortunate enough to be able to catch the show live, I thank you. For those of you who can't because you're busy, I know people are probably holiday shopping and things like that, but you do have the opportunity to watch the show on demand on one of the various video platforms. And if you can't watch it live, just watch it when you can. And if you're busy, take the show on the road with you. Take us on the road with you. There, I'll get it right. Podcast, Google Peter G Show Podcast. It's on all the majors. It's on 23 platforms. Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you prefer. Just put an earbud in your ear, listen to it in the car, listen to it while you're at work, because we know work is boring. Promise you, you'll get something out of it. Sometimes I really love the visual because sometimes I play videos or something that I want you to watch as well as hear, but it's the next best thing to be in there. So if I were you, take advantage of all the different ways to be able to grasp some of this stuff. And I thank you for it. But again, tonight, this is what we're doing. Our last show for the holiday season. We do have one more show before the end of the year next week. That's a little bit of a surprise. Not anything major, but we're just going to close out the show with a little bit of us. Let's just put it that way. And we're grateful. But again, coming up in just a couple of minutes, Miss Debra Whitson. I told her I apologize in advance, Debra. The Whitson. But first, before we get going, we just need to spend a quick minute from my amazing sponsor, and then I'll be right back.
Let us help you with the high price of fuel. Hello, I'm Ty Thompson at CleanStarProducts.com. We can optimize your engine, saving you money in gas. Here's how. Our program works the same with gasoline and diesel engines. Whether you're using a car pack or SUV pack, the instructions are the same. Add 1 bottle to your engine oil, and each time you change your oil, add 1 bottle to the fuel tank each and every fuel fill-up. It's that easy. You get 10% fuel economy on average, lower emissions, and increased horsepower. DX1 sells for $2 an ounce, so for just a few dollars a fuel tank, you can optimize your engine, saving you money in gas. Come on, give it a try. It's the finest green-grade oil in the world from a California environmental company. You're going to feel it when you drive. Order online today. We'll get it out right away. CleanStarProducts.com/shop.
That's right, CleanStarProducts.com with the DX1 driver. Telling you folks, let's face it, gas is stupid expensive. I don't care if it came down 20 cents. It's still way too much money. Cars are ridiculously priced. Do like I do. Take full advantage. Take care of your car like you take care of yourself. Invest a couple of dollars. Look at this little bitty bottle right here. Clean Star Products. They came up with an environmentally safe system to put in your crankcase. You put this in your clean oil change. That's all you got to do is put this little bottle in your average size car right here. And it helps with the lubricity of the car. It helps reduce friction, therefore giving you better gas fuel economy, gas mileage, and helps your moving parts, all those parts last longer, kind of like us. I always relate cars to our bodies. If you don't take care of it, some cars go to the junkyard a lot quicker than others. Cars are way too expensive. So go to CleanStarProducts.com if you want more information. They'll talk to you. Just tell them the Peter G Show sent you, and I promise you, invest in your cars or tools, and they cost way too much money. So take care of them, let them last longer, and get the most out of them, and you'll be happy in the long run. So please do it. It's the beginning of a new year. We're going to start the new year with these guys, and I'm very thankful. And again, one last thing, it passed all the California emission stuff. And you know, if you live out here in this crazy ass state, that if it can pass California, it's good for everybody. So I don't care if you have diesel or gasoline. These guys have it down. Give them a shot. Now let's move on. Actually, yes. Okay. As promised, right here from New York, the East Coast. Staying up late with me tonight. Take a sip here first. Smooth. As promised, we're going to talk one last time. Not that we don't talk about it through the year, but we're going to talk about it in this series because I've just repetitively been bringing all types of situations. Tonight, I have the pleasure and the honor of bringing on Miss Debra Whitson from Whitson Family Law Firm. And she's a family law attorney, and she sees this stuff every day. Nobody knows more than these guys. And we're going to share some of that information, how you can cope with these things, especially the children who get caught up in the middle. That's where my heart goes. And so we're going to talk a lot about this. And right now, without further ado, Debra, if you're ready, shake your head for me. All right, I got the nod. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Miss Debra Whitson. How are you, baby?
Hi, I'm great. So glad to be here. This is a really great topic that you're covering, and I'm appreciated that you're doing this. I'm appreciative that you're doing it.
Well, it just happens to be right up your alley, and you were kind enough to give your time. I mean, look, I know and have dealt with a lot of attorneys, family law attorneys, and a lot of them, they're just stick to their thing with the courts and all that, and a lot of them aren't as public to come on and share a lot of this stuff. So I thank you, because you're the gift that keeps on giving through. I'm just the mouthpiece right here, just kind of pass the messenger, so to speak. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm also, in addition to a family law attorney and a litigator, I go to court with people. I'm a mediator, I'm a collaborative attorney, and I'm a co-parenting coach. And it's near and dear to my heart to help people, help children adapt to holidays, especially right coming off of the separation or the initial divorce. So like you, I think that there's nothing more important than trying to help your children thrive and survive through this process. So this is so very helpful that you're doing this and putting these messages out in the world.
Yeah, thank you. It's a bitch. I mean, it's hard for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I can turn your speaker down here for me. Yeah, for some reason I'm getting that feedback that I thought we weren't going to get. Okay, it's hard for people, especially the first timers, because let's face it, you've done a lot of work with people that have been divorced 2-3 times. I'm assuming, and
Yes.
and you get better at it, hopefully. Some never learn, but I know that if I was to ever, God forbid, get divorced again or things like that, I know a lot more now than I did then, and things would be a lot different. But let's back it up a little bit. Why don't you tell us? I mean, a couple of things. Married? Do you have children too?
I am married happily for almost 30 years, and I have 2 adult children. So I was divorced in my very, very younger years after a very short-term marriage and no children involved. So I don't have the same story that you do, but I've seen a lot of people go through many, many stories involving children and separation and divorce, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of times the arguments that start once divorce starts, it's all everybody getting caught up in everybody's head, and it just, it escalates the problem. And people do a lot of dumb things due to anger, and it's like, screw you, I'm gonna, you'll never see your kids again. I mean, the only people losing in this case is the kids,
For sure.
So how many years have you been an attorney?
29 years now.
Wow. Okay. So you've seen a lot.
I have, yes. I have.
The whole time you've been an attorney, it's been family law?
No, the first 10 or 11 years of my practice, I was a special victims prosecutor. And then I transitioned out of government work and started my own law firm, and started right out of the gate with family law, and I've stayed there ever since.
Well, you're very active. I mean, the reason I noticed you is because you're out there. You're on Instagrams, you're on LinkedIn's and TikToks, and you're very vocal. I mean, you put a lot of information and things, and you go do a lot of these type shows and bring a lot of awareness to the general public, I guess. True?
Yeah, and where that comes from is that as a prosecutor, of course, I lived in the courtroom, and that's by design. I mean, that's where those cases are handled. But I learned fairly quickly when I transitioned into family law that courtrooms, no offense to the jurists and the other colleagues of mine who practice in courtrooms in family law and matrimonial law, those are terrible places for families to be. And often more harm comes to the families, especially the children in those settings, because it's designed to be adversarial. And anytime you engage in war, there's going to be collateral damage. And the most obvious and vulnerable collateral damage is if you have children and you're warring in the courtroom. So I've made it my mission, it's my passion to try to steer people away from the courthouse and find other avenues to trying to get their separation and divorces and their custody issues resolved outside of court. And if they have to be in court because their partner or ex won't do any other modality except go to court, there are strategies you can employ to protect yourself and your children and to try to negotiate and be strategically a problem solver. And you want to look for a strategic problem solver attorney to help you mitigate the negative potential impacts of the courtroom warfare.
Well said, but you don't know when you get an attorney. You get referrals and you don't know. And again, I hate to say it, but there's good and bad everything.
course.
And I had a sweetheart of an attorney who was pretty tough when he needed to be, but we were always answering to the problem.
Mhm.
But my ex, unfortunately, I say it because she did have an attorney that I truly feel was milking it for every dollar. He would wind her up, and that was very aggravating. And then finally, after 3 years, when the well was starting to run dry, they wrapped it up pretty damn quick. And I had to let my attorney go. I did the last 6 months on my own, which was good in a way because I could speak for myself and I knew a lot more after 3 years. But I actually could have used him more at the end than the beginning. But
So I think it's important to really interview your attorney. I mean, you're hiring a professional. You're not turning your life over to them. You're asking them to work for you. So it's important to ask things like, how many cases do you settle and how quickly do you settle? What's the overall likely cost going to be to me? Give me a range. I know no one can give you an exact, but if they tell you that your range is in, 5 or 6 figures, then you know that they are going to fight, litigate, and run the bill. And if they tell you that their range is on the lower end, then you know that you have a strategic problem solver. And I would ask them, how many cases do you settle in the first 3 to 6 months? How many cases do you settle in the first year? What's your approach to settlement? Is your first knee-jerk reaction to file a bunch of motions and go on the attack? Or do you reach out to the other side and try to present a settlement proposal right out of the gate? So I think, knowing what to ask your potential attorney and get a second opinion. I mean, I think if you were going to have heart surgery or major cancer treatment, you'd probably go get a second or even a third opinion. And I think you want to pick an attorney whose values and approach to solving your problems align with yours and fit within your budget.
I'm not sure if when people go in for the first time, they really, your head is spinning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and I don't even want to get into it. We will get into it about actually when you're appearing in court, because to me, that was the worst moment, standing there with everybody behind you, strangers, airing out all your dirt, and it's really, even if you don't have dirty laundry, it's still all the bad stuff comes out, nothing good. And everybody just sitting there listening to this crap. And it's humiliating. I mean, I'm not proud of it whatsoever. I just had to go. I didn't have a choice. But when you're picking, I don't know how it works in New York, but when people go to court here, the judge immediately orders mediation and to leave the courtroom, and there's somebody set up to so-called mediate. I don't know if the lawyers were voluntary or however it worked, but there was at least try, just talk it out before you come back to me. And 9 out of 10 times it doesn't work anyway because everybody's pissed off. But what about you?
So New York is not a mandatory mediation referral state. It's used on a sort of cultural basis in some parts of the states more than others. Where I practice, it's rarely used, and we don't have a lot of experienced family law mediators in the area who are the mediators the court's referring to. And I think that you can have a very different experience if you have an inexperienced mediator or a mediator who's experienced in commercial mediation, but they're trying to do your family law mediation, versus an experienced family law mediator. And I think if you show up at court and you're not in the mindset that that's what's going to happen, if your attorney hasn't prepared you, if you haven't, sort of discussed how to approach the mediation and thought about proposals to put forth in mediation, then that's a giant waste of everybody's time. If you're just like shepherded into the door next door to the courtroom without a whole lot of thought and preparation and planning, and maybe it's an overburdened, underqualified mediator in the courtroom, in the room that you're sent to. So I'm a big fan of mediation. I do a lot of mediation. I try to steer a lot of people to mediation when that's appropriate and possible. But I think those sort of systemic, cookie cutter mediation sort of formats where, okay, you leave the courtroom and you walk next door to a room and somebody's there with, pick a number and you wait in line and you're next for the mediation. And that mediator doesn't know your situation, hasn't had a chance to be briefed or prepared or whatever. I think that's a recipe for that failing. And that probably sours people on the mediation process as a whole, just because it's not set up for success when you approach it that way. If that makes sense.
No, I get it. There's a lot going on. I mean, I was sent we were sent into mediation probably 3 or 4 times over the course of the
Mhm.
3 years, at the very beginning and at the very end too, to try and settle this whole thing because, again, it was all based on stupid anger and it wasn't even and it was custody issues. And at the end of the day, after 3 years, at least for me, I was very lucky, I think, because I was always under the intent that it's a woman's world and the men get shortchanged when it comes to custody. And when I saw a woman mediator, it scared me, figuring they'll take to my ex's side. But they were actually way more fair than at least the ones that I had than I ever thought. And I thank God for them to this day because it saved me from having to give up what I originally should have had as a parent in general. So.
I would hope that any mediator or co-parent coach in today's age has been at least familiarized with the research that shows that children thrive and develop more emotionally develop into more emotionally healthy adults if they have consistent, regular involvement with both parents, and that we recognize going into these cases that each parent isn't perfect. I am not a perfect parent. I have not met a perfect parent, and I've never had a client who was a perfect parent. So just recognizing that different parenting styles and different approaches and strengths and weaknesses of each parent all factor into balancing out how children are experiencing the relationships with their adults, the nurturing relationships with their parents, and that there is value to consistent, regular involvement of both parents. And if you've got a mediator or a co-parenting coach who doesn't believe that, then you should fire them and move on to somebody who is at least starting on that premise.
True, but when especially mediators, judges especially, you don't know who you're going to get or what you're going to get. I know that my attorney at the time, he'd go and watch other cases to see how the judge kind of was. But I have a very close friend of mine who I actually spoke to today, and he's been through hell. And he's the sweetest guy in the world. And for some reason, this male judge just had it out for him. And even when he brought it back for more, to try and fix things, in his opinion, that he ended up with the same judge 15 years later and still got this. It just didn't get anywhere. And that, people are people. Who knows what drives them to make the decisions they make? But you're right. I think children, and now there are cases when a parent does not deserve because there's something wrong with the parent or has done something heinous or something. But in general, I'm a firm believer that child needs both a mother and a father, if possible. There are children that don't have a parent and would give anything, due to some illness or passed away or something, and just nothing you could do. And then you got two perfectly capable parents that are just too busy bitching about their own divorce and private issues, and one gets shortchanged, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I say in a lot of my messaging that I really think it's irrational to voluntarily let a stranger in a black robe make a decision on you about your children, much less your finances, but the children especially, because they are never going to know your respective strengths and weaknesses as parents, or your children's aptitudes and special needs and special talents, and their habits. Like them. There's just no way the system has time to do that. And then you also, like you pointed out, you don't know the unique background and life story of the jurist that's on the bench. Maybe you have somebody who was raised with a dad who was more or less absentee or working all the time, and a mom who was very nurturing and loving, and their view of parenting is mothers are the nurturing parent and children should be raised by their mothers. So that doesn't make them a bad person. That's just their life story and their perspective on the world. And now they're making a decision about your family, and your values may be different, and your children's needs are probably very different. So you're putting the most important decision in your life, like what happens to your children and how they're reared, in the hands of a stranger in a black robe. It's insanity to me. And I don't know why people wouldn't avoid that at all costs if possible.
Because I'll tell you why, and it's very sad, and I'm a product of the whole thing too. Because when two grown adults can't function to settle an issue, it gets taken to some strangers who don't know you and just go by generalization. And I mean, I remember, you're writing all these depositions, and the judge is supposed to read all this stuff before he comes into the courtroom, and I knew that nothing was red. I knew that nothing was red, and he's busy messing with the disco master to, let's finances and things like that. And it would drive me crazy because those countless hours that you're writing all this stuff and then sending it to an attorney as yourself, the dollars are racking up. And then you leave that courtroom because you know damn well all that work and all that, stress of thinking about and it just went out the window, and you're back at square one again.
People that I have consultations with are often shocked that I ask every single client when there's children involved to tell me something good about the other person as a person and as a parent. And it's amazing to me how many times that they've never been asked that or never really thought about it, because they get so wrapped up in, well, I'm ready. I need to get ready for a war. They're like anticipating a war that maybe hasn't even started or been envisioned. But I think that's how people view this process, that it's a battle, and you gotta, load your grenade launcher and put on your, Kevlar to protect. You got to be ready to launch the attack and protect yourself from the counterattack. And when I actually ask people, like, look, you were together for X number of years and you have X number of children, so there must have been some things that you found redeeming this other person. So tell me right now, today, what is something good about them as a parent? And I think if everybody in the system did that and actually made people say something. I mean, look, I know there's people out there who are the exception to the rule that we're all just flawed, right? We all have average flaws that are terrible and don't deserve to be, highly involved in parenting because they've done terrible things or they're harming their children. But most of us are just perfectly imperfect, and, we're doing our best. And, but the system is set up to sort of get you ready for warfare. I think that's wrong.
Well, there's no doubt that once you're in the heat of battle, you don't realize all the repercussions until it's finally over, and then the dust settles, and then there's a body count and the collateral damage, and then it smacks you right in the face, like how much money you actually gave away. And the thing you get from everybody is like, that money could have gone to your children. It's like, well, of course it could have. But when you're in that moment, for however long it may be, you lose, your blinders are on. It's tunnel vision. And the saddest part is when that judge rules, good or bad, and you pray for good, but whatever happens, it's written in stone. Good luck trying to reverse that. You'll die of old age or be in the poor farm trying to ever turn something around going against a judge's verdict.
Absolutely. Especially in family law, the decisions are very fact-based, and there's a lot of deference from the reviewing appellate courts for how the trial judge decided the facts and determined what was true and not true. So there is law involved in custody decisions, but it's very, very fact-driven. And so it is hard to turn those decisions around. Usually the appellate court says, well, I wasn't there. I wasn't seeing the witnesses and listening to the body language and the voice inflections and the tenor in the courtroom. The trial judge was best positioned to make those determinations about who was credible and who was not credible, and what facts were established and what weren't. And so it's like really, as you know, really, really difficult to turn those decisions around on appeal. And then you're stuck with it. Like you said, it follows you forever. So when you want to go back in 3 years and try to modify something or get something changed, that decision that may look very unfavorable for you, or the judge may have made some determinations about your parenting or your parenting deficits, now it's set in stone, and you're trying to recover from that and rewrite that history. It's very hard. I think there's a million reasons why people should not let their custody case get to that point where a judge is making a decision and making a ruling in black and white writing.
I agree. All right, look, we've talked about court in general and what a hassle and how to that and why you should try to avoid it, especially if there's children involved. But I want to get back to we haven't even touched on it yet, because I truly believe this could be a 3-hour show. But let's talk about the holidays. Prior to, because I have a lot of friends, let's say, and attorney friends, and in both in Florida. I mean, the more people you have in your circle, and when COVID hit, everybody has told me that most people wait until the holidays are over. They want to just try to keep it together, and then once the new year starts, everybody who wanted to file for divorce is filing for divorce. Now, I was told, despite that normal process, and you tell me if it's normal for you, but when COVID hit, people were so closer together and tensions were higher than normal, that they weren't waiting till the first of the year or after the first of the year. They were filing all through the holidays. And I had attorney friends that were busy as hell over the past 2 years. Is that true for you?
That is true. You're right. The regular pattern is try to make it as peaceful as possible for the children and not disrupt a holiday and make everybody really sad and upset and disrupted. And then, in January, there was a huge uptick. January, February were just incredibly busy months. And you're right. The pandemic, I think, stressed people in ways that nobody had ever envisioned they would be stressed, being sort of in close quarters and having their life restricted to their household a lot more. I've been busier than ever, and I've been practicing family law since 2009. So I just can't remember. The last 2 years are a blur to me. We've just been so busy. The pandemic has really impacted people's emotional health and the stability of their relationships, for sure.
About how many cases are you constantly juggling, like, that are on your books that you're having to maintain? A lot of attorneys I know, they take a certain amount because then, that they feel they can handle without spreading themselves too thin. Generally speaking, for you, about how many do you handle at the same time?
So we're a small firm, but we are handling about 100 to 120 at any given time. And that is more than we've ever handled in the past. It's just really hard to say no to people. We're trying to shore up our staffing to accommodate that. But as you know, everybody at least in the United States, is having difficulties hiring staff. So we're facing the challenges of everybody in our organization feeling like we're at the limits of our capacity to really serve our clients well. And at the same time, we don't want to say no. But we're at that point where I could hire a couple of family law attorneys and paralegals in a heartbeat if they existed. The market's really tough to hire in right now.
Right. Well, I mean, is there more than you as an attorney in your firm, or is it all you when it comes to going to actual court?
No, I have other attorneys, but most of them are virtual, and some of them are not full time. So I'm the person on the ground in my region in the law firm.
Let's talk about kids, because this is, I don't want to shortcut anything short on children. You deal with a lot of, people that are divorced with no children, or grown children, grown adults, but I'm sure you deal with a lot that have younger children. Mine, never saw court or anything like that, and you try, as far as I know, you try to keep your kids completely out of all that. But how do you deal with the children aspect of it? I mean, has it impacted to where you're going, where you have to look at your client and say, you really need to get a grip on this because of your children, or not? Does it ever get like that?
It can. I mean, sometimes when your clients are acting against their best interest, you have to tell them straight out how you're seeing it. And we do have pretty stringent rules in our firm about client behavior, what you can and can't do in dealing with the other party, what you can and can't do on social media while your case is pending if we're representing you. We really encourage our clients to have both a therapist and a divorce or a parenting coach in their corner if there is high conflict in the relationship, or if there was a high conflict relationship, or they're dealing with a high conflict ex. And we use the word, we hear the word narcissist a lot. And I know that that's a diagnosis that's pretty rarely placed upon a person, but we do see a lot of people who think their ex is exhibiting narcissistic behaviors, and that's probably true. So there's a lot of people going through stressful situations and breakups, or have been in unhealthy relationships where one or both of the people exhibit narcissistic behaviors. So I don't like to put the label narcissist on people, but I will say a lot of people that are going through breakups that are high conflict have narcissistic behaviors in play. And those are very, very challenging. They're very challenging, especially if you're in court, because the narcissistic or manipulative person will use the court as another weapon of abuse towards you. They'll use the court process to abuse you and draw it out and drain your money and drive you crazy and make you look crazy and all that sort of stuff. So in those situations, I really insist, frankly, that my clients get a therapist and a divorce coach, because we're empathetic to what they're going through. We see it, we understand it, we've dealt with it, but we're not mental health professionals at my law firm.
But when you do have and narcissist, that's a huge word. I mean, that word gets brought up in all these shows now, because there's so many different versions of a narcissist. But when you have somebody that uses the courts, because I have somebody in my circle that has been run through, and that's all they do, unfortunately, because he knows how to work the system. And how do you, I mean, when they're driving the car, I mean, how do you put a stop? You can't put a stop to them.
There's, sometimes you can't put a stop to it, but you can, if you have a good attorney who's anticipating what's coming, sometimes you can take tactical paths that will diffuse the impact of the bomb that they're about to drop, or the new motion they're going to file, that kind of thing. And I think it's really important to make sure that a client who's the person who's who's being attacked in that process has the right mindset to say, this isn't about you, and we know you're not crazy, and we're not believing these things, and you just need to try to stay the course and not let it derail you, because we need you to be strong and level-headed as we fight through this and push through this. But it does wear a lot of clients down, and they sort of break down, and then they make foolish behavioral mistakes because they're just stressed, or they strike back verbally, or they send off that barrage of texts that now end up on the judge's desk that we wouldn't want the judge to have seen, because they hit a breaking point. So it's so important to have those supports as you're going through it, because it's brutal. If you're in a court battle where the narcissist is driving that bus, it can be brutal.
Wow. Absolutely. Again, motion after motion after motion, year after year, constantly, continually filing, and it wears you down. And I snapped once in court because you just don't forget it, because I should have made, they pushed a button, and over nonsense, and I to this day it's like it haunts you. It's like all I had to do was not let it bother me, but that's what it's all about. It's like bringing out the worst in you at the worst possible moments.
Yeah, they'll push your buttons, and then it confirms to the court what they've told the court, is that you're the crazy unhinged one. And then when you have that moment in court, or on the tirade of texts, or on the recorded video call, or audio call, or voice message that you left for your ex because they pushed that button and you just went off. So it's really, really important to have enough supports around you to understand that that's the strategy of the high conflict ex, is they want to try to push your buttons and push you over the edge, so you become unhinged, or you appear to become unhinged. And they go, see, judge, this is what I've been telling you. This is how this is what I've lived with for 15 years, So it's definitely, you definitely have to sort of, buckle down and be in it to win it if you're in court against a narcissist. But you need someone you need a couple of people in your corner, a good coach, a good therapist, and a good attorney who knows what to expect and how to spin it to the court.
I hear you, but a lot of people don't have money for these types of things. I mean, let's face it. I don't know how much you are an hour, but average attorneys are, is it safe to say $400 to $500 an hour?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Average, I'm sure there's way more, and there might be a couple of dollars less, but I don't know too many that are under that, and it adds up real quick. And then you have, and I've never seen so much of in my life, that since doing this show now, divorce coaches and all these organizations to help you get through your divorce, divorcing well, and you have a book out, what's the name of your book? Divorce Like a Pro?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's, all advice and things like that. It's like, in a way, I understand what you're saying, but it's like, I never want to be a pro at divorcing. I just don't want to be that good. I had to do what I had to do, but I don't ever want to look at it again. But I wish I had that knowledge.
Well, I mean, I guess the point of my book and the title "Divorce Like a Pro" is that if you go at it like it's amateur hour, then you're going to have results like it's amateur hour, and you're probably going to spend a lot more money because of all the mistakes you make along the way. So, but I always stress to my clients, like, sometimes you just have to decide what's worth fighting for, and let go of the things that don't bring you greater results than you're spending to get the results. So, I mean, on the financial side of things, if you're going to spend $50,000 to get half of a retirement account that's, worth 80,000, well, you've just spent 10,000 more than you're going to receive in value, because you're going to get 40,000 out of an $80,000 retirement account, but you spent $50,000 fighting over it. That doesn't make good economic sense, and you shouldn't be doing that. So, sometimes these battles become battles like, I want justice and I'm fighting for my principles. Justice and principles are way more than any of us can afford. So you just gotta fight for the pragmatic stuff. Like, you don't spend $50,000 to get a $40,000 payout from your ex. That's stupid. And a number of times I say to my clients, all right, how long are you going to hold on to that position? Because you're putting my kids through college and you could put your kids through college. Like, this is silly. Like, but in principle, I'm not giving in, well, then that principle is pretty expensive and valuable to you, because you keep fighting for that principle, but economically, it doesn't make sense.
I get it. And again, you get lawyers that will inform you of this stuff. And mine looked at me and said, you need to figure out which battles you want to fight. And so I gave up all the things that like pertain to money and houses and this and that. But when it came to my child, when it comes to your children, where do you draw the line when you're getting shortchanged or possibly could get shortchanged? I mean, it's so emotional. And this is where the problem begins, because it is beyond the depth of personal. I mean, how much more do you want to rip a piece of your heart away?
No, I mean, I think that's hard, because I think most of us would say there's nothing we wouldn't pay or do or give up for the best interests of our children. But, those are the really difficult conversations that I have to have sometimes with clients, because like you pointed out earlier, if you push it to the point where you have a trial and the judge makes a decision and the cards are telling you that decision is going to be very unfavorable to you and it's going to follow you and all of the future custody adjustments down the line, then maybe it's worth settling for less than you would hope for now, so you don't have that ball and chain tied to your foot. You're not wearing cement shoes in this marathon of parenting. So sometimes those are the decisions that you're making, and unfortunately that sometimes you're in court and the tea leaves are such that what you're hoping for isn't likely to happen. So you got to figure out, what's my best strategic move to set myself up to come back when there's a change of circumstances, or I have another opportunity to revisit this, or the children are a little older and their say in the matter matters more, or whatever it is. There's a lot of variables in custody decisions. So there's a lot of family dynamics and factors that go into it. So there can be lots of things along the way of your children's life and development that could give you another opportunity to go back for another opportunity to change it up. But these are tough. They can be heartbreaking.
It's real tough, because again, I had a conversation with this friend of mine who I've been friends with for decades, and he got wronged, and he lost all that time when his kids were little. He lost a lot of time. I mean, I think he got 23% custody or something like that, and it was just a real bad move. And you can't get that back. Now his kids are they just turned 17, but and we talked about that today, because my daughter just turned 17 yesterday, and we talked about, like, it's still really good, but it's a different dynamic now. They're busy, they on their phone, doing what they do, and it's just you can't do the things you used to do when they were little. Now it's just different. It's still okay, but it's way different, and you lose that. And that's why I say it's just so emotional, and it's hard to let go and go, okay, no big deal.
No, absolutely. I get it. These are really, they're very, very difficult. I really wish there were more people that would approach it from a child development sort of way, and see that, I don't have to like this other person who's the other parent of my child, and I don't even have to get along. I just have to not interfere, right? I just have to be civil. we have to be like coworkers, like co-CEOs of our children's lives. And I think for some people, it's hard to get out of to let go of the hurt, the blame, the focus on the past, and they're unable to focus on today and the future. How can today be different, and how can the future be better for our children if we let some of this crap from our history go? And then it's difficult, I think, for many people to move out of the romantic zone, which is weird for me to say because there's a lot of hate that goes along in some of these battles, but they're still kind of in that romantic partner zone and not in the more detached co-parent zone. And that's a lot of things that you can be working on in therapy or with your coach to say, I no longer have the right to judge my ex's relationships with intimate partners, because we are not intimate partners anymore. So I need to keep my mind out of those things and not go into those battles, and just say, this is my co-CEO of our children's lives. So I wouldn't tell my coworker that they're they've made a bad choice of a new romantic partner, or that they shouldn't have that person around their children or whatever. But you don't have the right to say that to your ex either, because you're not in the romantic zone. So getting into that, shifting into that, we are in the co-parent lane and not in the romantic partner or former romantic partner lane, is a hard emotional shift for a lot of people, especially when those, the back and forths keep going. The jabs about the new boyfriend or the new girlfriend, and the little jealousies that seem to go on and things like that keep things festering and keep it kind of stuck in that romantic zone.
Yeah, but again, I know there's a lot of people that do a lot of stupid stuff that, they bring new girlfriends in way too early, or new boyfriends in way too early. I kept everybody out of the whole thing for a long time because there was nothing more important than that child. And I lost relationships because of it too, and that's okay. But we all make mistakes. And everybody wants, and there's some people, they jump out of the frying pan right into the fire again, and they're lining it up, and they don't deserve it. But for the parents that are fighting to be a parent, most people kids would kill to have that loving parent. And here you got, a court, and you got an ex that's like, you don't deserve that much, because I'm the mother or the father. And there's good and bad mothers and fathers. I've seen it both, but that's what kills me the most. It's like, because we're fighting just to be a mom or a dad. And it shouldn't have to be that way.
It shouldn't. I always tell my clients to imagine that they were in the other parent's shoes. So if they're trying to cut the other parent down to 20% parenting time, or they want to have every Christmas morning and never yield a Christmas morning to the other parent, I try to say, okay, let's turn that proposal on to you. How would that feel for you? Would that be acceptable to you? Would that seem fair to you? And I do a lot of that work, and I challenge my clients, but I think that there's a lot of selfishness in our world, and I see a lot of parents who feel like I'm the one who owns the children, and I get to decide how much they're doled out to the other parent. Like, just, I don't know, maybe because I have two X chromosomes, they're my children, and I get to decide how much they spend with the dad.
Yeah, they're the mother. I'm a mother, so I have to. It's like, well, I know fathers that are just as good as mothers. A mother is a mother. And they need both. They need both. I thank God for all the things I got from both of my parents, and even when I got my ass kicked, they were right. And I did get my ass kicked a lot, but it paid off. At least I think it did. You have to ask my friends and family. But okay, we're time is starting to fly. The main reason one of the main reasons, because we can talk about this stuff anytime during the year, but the holidays, getting through the holidays, I'm sure that you have a lot of people trapped in this situation now, to where somebody is not going to be with their children for the holidays. Somebody is going to be alone. Somebody is really going through a bad time and needs to help on how to figure to survive it, even though it's just another day. But it's as I said earlier, it's an amplified day that should be full of love and peace and joy and all that. But somebody's going to be sitting home watching TV, eating junk food through the holidays. How do you handle these situations if you have some of those people that are unfortunate enough for this situation?
Yes, and I don't want to take the religious significance of some holidays away. Like, so some, Easter, if you're not in church for the appropriate masses around the Easter celebration, you're missing out of a special and important religious experience with your children. So some of them cannot necessarily be replicated on another day. But aside from that the religious aspect of it, I would say, make another day your new celebration. Make a new tradition. Keep some of the old traditions that are familiar and comfortable and that your children associate with a particular holiday or occasion, but make something new, make something special, make it fun, make it really different. And then I would also say that if you honor the other parents' new celebrations and you honor and respect their new traditions, and et cetera, and you do things like, let's go shopping for a Christmas gift for mom, for your kids who don't have their own money or whatever, can't make their own decisions about that. But your little ones, like, let's make something for mom, and you're going to bring it over to mom's and give it to her as her Mother's Day gift or her Christmas gift or whatever. To keep honoring those, even if you don't get the honor in return, because it's the right thing to do for your kids. It's the right thing to model for your kids. And maybe the other parent will eventually see that they're schmucky if they're not reciprocating and doing the same thing for their kids. And maybe they won't, but you've done the right thing by honoring the other parent, even if the other parent is disrespecting you as a parent or a person. So you got to always ask yourself, what is right for the kids? What would I want done to me? What would I want from the other parent? And be the bigger person. Sometimes you're going to be the one who's always giving and trying to do the right thing, and it's never going to be reciprocated. And I guess that's, some people have to just accept that and say, I know that I'm being a good person and I'm being a good parent to my kids. And the kids will see it. I think the kids will see it. They see everything. They soak everything up. They're like little tiny sponges.
They are sponges, and that's the thing. Because if I had a nickel for every time my attorney said, just keep wearing the white hat. And, it was very frustrating. And again, I'm referring back to my friend who's gotten shortchanged. He was that guy. He was that guy that no matter what his ex did, didn't do for him, he was still bending for the kids to do something for the mother, and because he's a sweetheart guy. And, but besides that, and that's great advice. What about the people like my friend who he does all this for the kids to do for their mother, but then he has to give them up and then he's home and now he wasn't like this, but a lot of people, they're downing a bottle of Jack Daniels because, inside they're just tore up.
I would say find a social outlet or a support group of some sort, find other parents who are not celebrating the holiday with their kids. I'm not saying go on a turkey trot because I'm not a jogger or a runner. You would never catch me in a turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day if I didn't have my family. But, something to get you engaged on that day so you're not sitting around wallowing in your sadness that you're alone on a particular holiday. I would just say find something, find someone. There's other people in your situation or other recreational outlets or social outlets you could try to get engaged with, or volunteer at a food shelter, because you know what, they're homeless people, so you're missing your kids on that day, but these people don't have much. They may not have family at all. They have no homes. They're out in the cold. So do something to volunteer, like on a holiday.
It's hard. I mean, having people to lean on, I think, is one of the biggest keys if you have somebody. But a lot of these people, even the people you have to lean on, I mean, they're busy with their own families. And sometimes I've seen it to where they go, I want to bring him over, but he's friends with, I'm friends and his wife was friends with, and you can't, and I just think when the brain is too quiet and you're sitting there alone, you start thinking way too hard about things that you shouldn't be thinking about. And it causes a lot of bad things to possibly happen, that you never would have thought would have happened. And from suicides to, things like that. And it's just sad. And that's why I always emphasize on having a support system, somebody to lean. I mean, I owe a handful of people. I mean, I owe them a new shoulder, because it was just shocking to me. I mean, I just never been through it and it bothered me a lot, but.
Yeah, there's lots of people, the loss of a marriage or your kids is, it's in many ways similar than losing a loved one to death. But with death, there's a finality of the event, and then you have some time to heal from that event. But when you're constantly feeling the loss because your kids are kept from you, or you're alone again on a holiday, or you lost yet another round of custody stuff, it's like that person is dying over and over and over again, and it can really lead to depressive conditions. And people have to be aware of that, and just know that they're at risk for that if that is their life circumstance. And um, find professionals, and find non-professionals, friends and extended family or whatever, and get out there and get active so that you're not wallowing all the time and feeling bad about these situations. But I think it's worse than grieving a loved one because of that constant opening that wound again over and over.
I think even with death, I mean, I do a lot of that too, because this is part of getting through the holidays too. There's a lot of people, you miss somebody, you lost a child, God forbid. I mean, those, I can normally understand, I know how you feel with a lot of things, but the loss of a child and stuff is beyond anything that even though you can imagine it, it's just like when you have a child, you'd love a child when you have a baby, but let's face it, when you had your first child, that door opens up and it's bigger than you've ever, and it's unexplainable. The same thing with loss. And I think that you don't ever get over it. You just learn how to live with it somehow. And a lot of people, though, are recluses. They keep things to themselves and they don't go out looking for all these suggestions we're making. That's why I'm hoping these shows reach people to go, you know what, you're not alone. You're not pioneering in this. It happens every day. We all lose our families and, mothers, fathers, and it sucks. That's what love is. But some people just don't know how to, they just can't reach out. They just keep to themselves. And you just do that little self-destruction, and little by little, you start getting sick from it.
Yeah, it's a real danger in these kinds of situations. And, I think it would serve everybody well to remember that for every family who's gathering together and feeling reconnected, and, the love and the joy and all that sort of stuff, there's, at least one other person or family which is fractured, and there's loss, and there's grieving, and there's loneliness and sadness. So I think it's important to keep that in mind as we're encountering people. You never know what somebody's dealing with unless you know them well. So when you're, cheerfully saying Merry Christmas, enjoy your Christmas, and whatever, you might be having the unintended effect of making that person feel worse or sadder, because that's not their circumstance in a particular point in time. So it's a double-edged sword. We have a lot of our society is about put on your happy face, and everyone should be happy and joyful, and holidays should be like a Hallmark movie. Wow. It's not the case a lot of times.
I get it, but that's why we are here. And speaking of we being here, I told you that the time was going to fly really quickly, and it has. I want to at least let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. You have websites and you have all kinds of stuff, correct?
Yeah, there's lots of free resources. There's videos about co-parenting tips and how to prepare for your custody case, and how to prepare your kid to talk to their guardian ad litem or law guardian in New York, or all sorts of resources on financially preparing for your divorce, emotionally preparing for your divorce. They're downloadable, they're free. There's videos you can watch that were very helpful. So there's lots of great stuff. We want to put good information out in the world for people who need it, and who can easily access it when they need it, including 24/7 on the website.
Correct. So if people want to get a hold of you, get a hold of your website to find all that vital information, and you have a lot of it, but they can easily just go to, is it the www.whitsonlawfirm.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's very noble of you. You're not only dealing with things in real time, you're putting out information, and helpful information, and possibly life-saving information, because it wears at you. No doubt about it. But so that's very, very kind of you to take all that time and effort, and it costs money to do all that kind of stuff too. So, I'm sure many appreciate that.
We want to make these resources and this information available to as many people as possible, even if you're not in the state of New York and we can't represent you or help you as your lawyers or law firm. We think this is so important for people to go into these really stressful life changes in a way that reduces the stress on them and their children, and reduces the overall cost and the length of time they're mired down in these issues. So, that's my little do good for the world piece. Send it out there.
Well, we all need to do a little bit of do good for the world. If everybody did, there'd be a lot better world to be doing in, and that's a fact. I want to thank you for giving us the time, for taking the time. I know it's late over there, and I don't know what your day is looking like tomorrow, but still, time is time. And again, you're doing some do good for the world right here on this show, and helping spread in some other avenues that possibly people wouldn't know that you're on. But if there's anything you could say to like just kind of like wrap things up, a bit of advice, or just your mantra, anything like that, before I let you go, is what would that be?
Well, the mantra I hear myself saying a lot is don't let the stranger in the black robe make the important decisions for you, including about your kids. So if you really want to, dive in and get a little more information, you can find Divorce Like a Pro on Amazon, or you can even download a free digital version of it off of our website. So you could start there and get some basics on better ways you can approach your breakup.
Fair enough. I had a family law attorney a few years ago from Pasadena. Her name is Kelly Chang, and her motto was divorce is grand. The marriage is grand. Divorce is $100,000. And that's how I found her, because I love that. It's sad but true. And
yeah, it's funny until you're writing that check out for the $100,000 and your ugly divorce. But
yeah, you're not writing it all in one piece, and that's how you don't know how broke you're going, because you just keep giving chunks until you finally look at everything and go, where did it go?
Yeah,
anyway,
how did I get here?
Yeah, exactly. Debra Whitson, I thank you for taking the time out to be on the Peter G Show, especially during this Getting Through the Holidays series. I truly the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Maybe sometime next year we can just go in general down the road and revisit this stuff, because I truly know that we can't reach everybody, and everything, the more we get out there, the more possibly, if we help a few, it's worth every minute we spend.
I would love to be welcome back on your show. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the good information you put out in the world as well. And thank you very much for having me on. This has been very interesting.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, last time, if you want to get hold of Debra, or see all those informative videos and information that she puts out, you go to www.whitsonlawfirm.com, and all that is available at your fingertips for free. And I don't think, talk about the gift that keeps on giving, right there. She's giving, and I thank you. So you have yourself a great holiday, and hopefully, and now I know we're interconnected, because you're all over Instagram, as I am, and Facebooks, and LinkedIn's, TikToks, Twitters. You're everywhere. So our paths are forever embedded, and I know I'll be talking to you some more. But I'll be
following you. I'll be following you. You do good stuff. Thank you, Peter. You have good holidays too, and take care. We'll see you in the new year.
Thank you. I love you for doing this. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it right there. One last chime to write that down, or just keep watching this show, www.whitsonlawfirm.com. And you can get a hold of Debra, or you can watch all those informative videos that she has right there at your disposal, right at your fingertips, especially through the holidays, learning to keep your mind busy. Good advice. We both share stories and pieces from experiences that I wish that maybe we didn't have, but we do have them. And so utilize them to your advantage. Share it with your people, with your friends. I know you have people in your circle that are probably going through things like this, and help them out. Let them speak, let them blow off some steam, and say, hey, maybe you should go watch this or something. Do you some good. Back when you get home, when you're on your own time, pay attention to this. It did me a lot of good. It might help you a lot. So there it is. I'm very grateful for her taking the time to do this. I want to thank everybody for watching the Peter G Show as we get closer to Christmas. Right now, we're only days away, and for those of you who are watching it live, but if you're not watching it live, I just want to thank you in general. The holidays are special. For those who don't have the ability to be around family and things like that, don't worry. It's just another day. We have to have good days every day. I didn't see my daughter on her birthday yesterday, and I saw her today briefly, because she's 17 and she's busy. When I was hugging her and telling her how much I loved her, I said, it's every day that matters, not just one day. Sure, it's a little more special, but it's a blink of an eye. Everything needs to be good every day. Just like when people go on vacations, and I say this a million times, and I'm about to say it again. If you go on a vacation to try to get rid of your problems, and then you come back 2 weeks later and you're still going back to the same situation, it doesn't solve a damn thing. It's a Band-Aid, and that Band-Aid, as soon as you get back, will slowly peel off, and you'll be right back in the same crap that made you miserable in the first place. You have to fix the stuff from within. Happiness is priceless. So I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. From everybody from the Peter G Show, I have lots of people that chip in to put this show together throughout the year, and I'm very grateful for them to be here. If it wasn't for them, I probably couldn't be here, because I'm just me. And this show takes a lot more than just me. But we are grateful. So everybody have a great Christmas. We will see you right after Christmas for our final Life of Peter G show right here. And then we'll be going into the new year. But do the best you can for those who don't have a whole lot going on. Again, it's only a short period. I know it emphasizes and it makes things, feel really worse, but, don't be pulling the covers over your head and don't drink yourself under the table. Just handle it, because there's a lot more good to go on right after all this passes. And it does pass real quick. So, again, reminding you, you don't have to be an ass in life, but you don't have to take a lot of crap from people either. Life is short. Very short. It's getting shorter. Do the best you can. Be kind. Sometimes you got to make that extra step, even when people are, throwing things at you. Keep on handing out that olive branch. Do your best. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. The ability is what you do with the situation that you're handed. It's not about the situation. It's how you handle the situation. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. I truly do, from the bottom of my heart. I thank you for watching Life of Peter G, the Peter G Show, every Wednesday, God willing. I know I say that a lot, but there's a reason for it. 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. on the East Coast right here. I look forward to seeing you one last time before this year is over. And please share, and just go hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. I got to make a difference over there, because those people are holding us back. And only you, the people, can change that by adding more subscriptions. It's free. So we'll find out. We'll see how we're going to start out this new year after next week's last and final show. So again, my name is Peter G. I thank you for watching. As always, I love you guys. Merry Christmas and peace out.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorce dad, single dad, divorce dad, single dad, Peter G Show.